The next topic we will get into is how battles and combat are simulated in the games. Combat is influenced by many factors, but I think the easiest way to understand it is to look at a very simple example and then layer on the different effects in later examples. So that is what I'll do here. The basic principle of combat is that you are using strength to inflict losses on the enemy. So combat involves using the strength points units have to inflict losses on the enemy. So let's look at the most basic of examples and see how it works. Units can attack enemy units in adjacent hexes during their combat phase. Each unit can participate in one attack into one adjacent hex each turn. Here's an example from the Western Front. Let's say that at the end of the German movement phase, we have German and French units in the following situation. Notice first that there are multiple pieces stacked in the same hex. By the stacking rules, you can have up to 6 divisions in the same hex. In this example, there are 2 units in each of the involved hexes. The German player has the 41st and 3rd Reserve Divisions here in hex 1210. Here they are. And then down in hex 1311, he has the 6th Landwehr Brigade and the 1st Reserve Division. Now, the German player is going to use all 4 of these units to attack the 2 French units in hex 1211. And you can see the 2 French units, the 54th and 55th Reserve Divisions here. Now I've taken the units off of the map and put them here so you can more easily reference what I'm talking about. At the most basic level, this is how combat is worked out. First is the attack. The German totals the number of strength points he is attacking with. Look at the number of strength points in the units that he has and add them together. This will be 8 plus 5 from the units in 1210 plus another 2 plus 5 from the units in hex 1311. So this is a combined total that the German will be attacking with of 20 strength points. The German player would now look at the combat results table. This is called the CRT for short. This is printed on the map margin of the Tannenberg introductory game, and in other games it is on a separate card. Now, because he is attacking with 20 strength points, the German player uses the 20 column on this table, right here. He rolls a 6-sided die, and let's say he rolls a 4. Here's from the die result. He would cross-index this 4 with the 20 column, and you'd see that the result is a 3. This is the amount of strength point losses the Germans will inflict on the French. The game uses a die roll because so much of combat is unpredictable. But it is not complete chance. Notice that the die roll will allow for variation, but only within a range of outcomes. This range is determined primarily by the strength the player brings to bear. The next part of the combat is the counterattack. The French defenders of hex 1211 have a total of 8 strength points, 4 from each of the 2 divisions. But since they are counterattacking, and this is very important, their strength is tripled before consulting the combat results table. The tripling of the French strength means that they will use the 24 column on the combat results table. For the counterattack, the French player would roll a 6-sided die, and let's say he rolls a 5. He would then cross-index this result with the 24 column that he's determined to be using, and note that the result is a 4. This is the amount of strength point losses the French defenders will inflict on their German attackers. So the result of this combat are that the French will take a 3 strength point loss and remain in hex 1211, while the Germans will take a 4 strength point loss. The last part of the combat is actually taking the losses. Players have some latitude in how they take losses, but all of the involved units must first be reduced to backside strength before any other unit can take additional losses. Now in this example, the French need to take 3 strength points and losses. The French will take the first 2 strength points and losses by flipping both divisions over to their backsides. Let me go ahead and do that so you can see it. Okay. And then he places the -1 marker on the 54th Reserve Division's flipped over counter, showing that this division is now at a strength of 2. So at the end of the battle, the French divisions in hex 1211 went from both being full strength, that is 4 strength points apiece, to one division having a strength of 3 and the other division now having a strength of 2. Now the Germans have to take their 4 strength points in losses. The German player decides that the 1st and 3rd Reserve Divisions will both be flipped over to their backside strength of 3. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, this is a reduction from 5 to 3 for both divisions and would reflect the 4 strength point total loss suffered by the Germans in this combat example. While the German player decided to take his losses from the 1st and 3rd Reserve Divisions, the German player had a number of alternative options. Let's reset back to the original German situation. To take the 4 strength point losses, he could have instead flipped over just the 41st and 3rd Reserve Divisions, and this is what that would have looked like. This also would have accounted for the 4 strength point losses the Germans were assessed in this combat. Let's reset again back to the original German situation. Now, one option the German player could not use is to completely eliminate the 6th Landwehr Brigade and then just flip over one of the other divisions. Here's what that would potentially look like. The German player cannot do this because he cannot take more losses from a single unit, in this case the brigade, than just flipping it over until all of the units involved in the combat are first reduced to their backside strength. The brigade has a backside strength of 1. Therefore, it can't be used to take losses past the 1 point loss of flipping it over until all of the other involved units are at their backside strengths. And notice that in this case, the 41st and 3rd Reserve Divisions are still at their full strengths. So this option is not allowed. Resetting back to the original, the German player therefore decides to reduce the 2 reserve divisions to their backside strength to take the 4 strength point losses he needs to as a result of the combat. And then this shows the final result of both players taking their losses in the combat. So these are the basics of combat we have just gone over. First, the attack. The attacker determines the losses that he inflicts on the defenders. Second, counterattack. The defender determines the losses he inflicts on the attacker. And then third, taking losses. Both sides reduce the strength of involved units based on the results of the attack and the counterattack. Well, these are the fundamentals. A number of other factors can play a significant role in modifying the outcome of combat. These factors include terrain, retreat, and supply. The effects of each of these factors will be explained in subsequent videos.